All right, welcome, welcome. Today we have with us Nicole DeCandice. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, long time no see. Welcome to the show. Yeah, yeah. So today we are talking about John Singleton's Baby Boy, which this year celebrates 20 years. This came out June. Was it in June? Yeah, I think June 27th was 20 years, the release of this movie.
Really?
2001.
You sure?
I looked it up. June 27th, 2001 was weekend in box office.
If it's 2001, went to
2020.
Wow. I felt like Babe. I don't know why I felt like Baby Boy came out. I'm about to date myself. Let me be quiet.
Go ahead.
But I'm telling my whole age on this. I'm not gonna do that. I need people to believe in the myth. I need to guess my age.
Okay. All right. I don't want to talk about 2001. There was a lot going on in 2001, and we don't need this to turn into a therapy session where we need tissues and cocktails and all of that up. So 2001, Baby Boy by John Singleton, the late John Singleton. He wrote. Did he write and direct? I think he wrote and directed this. Yeah, writer and director of this film. And he even had a little cameo in the film, if you caught it.
Yes, he did. He did.
And I missed it the first time I watched it. I was watching with pen and paper this time. He showed up in there trying to sell DVDs.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's all I saw was the back of his head. I was like, it's showing up? He's slick, ain't he? But yeah, so the title of the movie actually comes from Dr. Frances Cress Williams, and she describes the theory of the baby boy, and that's all spelled out in the beginning of the movie, talking about, what does a black man call his friends, his boys? What does he call his house?
Yeah, his boys.
And she breaks it all down, and that's why he's called his baby boy. And the whole opening scene is Tyrese, all curled up in the fetal position, looking like
in the womb. Almost.
Yeah. So something was recently written, and it's posted in the group. I forget the publication that it came from, but it talks about Baby Boy being a coming of age movie. And I never viewed it that way before, because this came out in the, when the New Jack movies were real popular, and all the California type themed movies were real popular around that time, like the late 90s, early 2000s. What are your thoughts about it, Nicole? About this being a coming of age movie?
Oh, it definitely is a coming of age movie, because you see the level of maturity, you see the character development, of Jody, and even of his friend. I can never remember his name like offhand. It's like, because I want to call him by his real name.
Yeah, Omar Epps.
So
Sweet Pea.
Yes, that's all I want. Yeah. So when you see how he evolved, and even when you see Snoop didn't evolve at all, he pretty much was the same from start to finish. But it shows how his development was stunted because of his mindset, and his inability to come out the behaviors that he had previously been in, criminal activity, prison, jail bound, that type of thing, so and volatile, and assaulting females. So it's like he couldn't get out of that. So I really do think that it is a different take on coming of age, because normally you kind of see, you think about other coming of age movies like The Inkwell, and you see how he went, how he developed over the summer, that type of thing, from being, kind of babyfied in a way, I know that's not a real word, but kind of babyish and sheepish or whatever, to coming into his own as a young man, becoming a teenager. So, you can kind of see those nuances in Baby Boy. It's just the take on it when it comes to the fact that you think, as grown as he is, that he wouldn't still be evolving to become a man, because he was flat-footed in it. He wasn't 18 and he already had a child and that type of thing. So you think that his mindset would be different, but he was still adolescent in his behavior, and adolescent in his thought process.
Right. Right. I think it was interesting, the events that it took for him to mature, in a sense. And even though it was a coming of age film in a certain aspect, and again, looking at it 20 years later, I was a little bit bothered by what it took for him to, I'll say, begin to evolve, because it actually took him being involved in a murder to say, all right, it's time for me to change. It took him seeing himself in that position to say,
almost being killed. But
right. Well, not the almost being killed. I'm talking about when Sweet Pea had to finish the guy. That moment where he looked at the victim and was like, okay, I can't do it. And Sweet Pea said, nah, man, we got to finish this. And at that point, it was kind of strange. But just before they went to do that job, and I'm trying to say this without giving it away for those who haven't seen the movie, that little prayer that Sweet Pea laid down, where he was like, God, because even Sweet Pea, his evolution was complex. He was like, I don't want to do this no more, but I feel like I'm still kind of stuck in the middle of what we're doing. He sat down and laid down that prayer, and I was like, well, damn. And he was like, you know what, Lord?
Yeah, right before it.
Yeah, he was like, and even if we're wrong, forgive us for what we're about to do. And I'm like, well, shoot. That was kind of a mature prayer for someone that knows what they're
I appreciate him was that he always. Well, that's one thing I could appreciate with Sweet Pea, was that he always seemed to be conscious. Right. he really seemed to have like a high level of thought behind what he did. Now he comes off a little rough and gruff, and you feel like, oh, he's another Neanderthal with a gun. But in all actuality, when you actually listen to his conversations and how he's the one that really kind of helped Jody mature, it was two men that were instrumental in his maturity. Sweet Pea being one, because of how he got him to think about entrepreneurship, and of course Melvin. And we could talk about Melvin later on, because ma'am. Anyway. That term right just sound like that.
I see you. I see you. Look,
that was another moment.
Look, Mom was like, my turn.
The first time, ma'am, that I saw him in that living room, I was like, well, do. like my grandma say, well, do. But yeah, we can get more into Melvin, because I like how complex his character was too. Yeah, he was an onion. He had a lot of layers. He really did.
Yeah, we can talk about onions too. But anyway, yeah, but Omar Gooding's character was, I kept saying to myself, oh my goodness, and then I was like, oh dang, oh my goodness, oh my gosh, no, oh dang, the whole time, because like you said, he was complex. It was like 1 minute he's sitting there and he's fussing at his girlfriend and his mom. And I was like, well, that's some narcissistic behavior right there. And then he'd come back and be like, listen, I'm trying to be better. It was like he came off as a little unstable, but he was like, I know where I need to get my guidance. I know where I need to go to fix myself. And by the end, he was like, all right, I got to do it. This is what I need to do. So it's like he knew where he needed to go. And he was like, let me just finish my mess. And then I'm going to go get my get right. And did it.
Yeah. And see, one thing I could appreciate about him was that he was apologetic. I remember the one, the little spat he had in the house with his girlfriend. And then he didn't just apologize to her. He apologized to the mom. And was like, I'm sorry because, you let me come here and, and he was kind of trying to explain himself. It's a level of patience. And this movie has so many layers, there's a level of patience that African-American women have for their men. Yeah. And where he was not married to this child, they didn't have any kids. And she allowed him to stay in their house and do some of the things he was doing. And she still never put him out. That says a lot. And I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing or in between gray thing, but there's a level of forgiveness and overlooking that I think that we tend to have when it comes to our men. There's a high threshold of tolerating foolishness. I kind of want to tease that out. I don't think we have enough time for that. But it's like the more we talk about the movie, it's like when you look at it as an adult, a full-grown woman that's had relationships now, or some of us, may have been married, you kind of like look back over your life, you're like, that was crazy. You don't realize how crazy that is until you kind of look back on it in retrospect. Like, I don't think that was appropriate, but it happened nonetheless.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, there's so many conversations that could be had because I started losing focus. There was a conversation that I saw happening online that happened in the movie where Yvette, Yvette went to see Juanita. And, she was like, you need to talk to your son. And she was like, I'm not getting in y'all's business. And she was like, but he's cheating on me. And she's like, look, y'all got to sort your own stuff out. And she was like, well, why won't you do blah, blah, blah? Your son's cheating on me and we have this child together. She's sitting there. And it's like, you know what? Yeah. Mom, you should talk to your son. And mom is like, I'm not getting in it. I know my son ain't no good, but I'm not getting it. I'm not getting.
But you know what? Can you rightfully blame her? Because at the end of the day, they're grown, and I think she kind of the comment she kind of made, if I remember correctly, was pretty much you knew what you were getting, what you were dealing with, because he had already created a baby with Peanut on you. So if you choose to stay in it,
yes and no, because in that same conversation, kind of what I heard was, I know my son, which to me sounds like I know the monster I created and I want to say I'm sorry, but I can't. That's kind of what went unsaid. It's like, I can't get in the middle of it because I know the monster I created, but I can't.
I had a conversation like that one. That's a whole therapy session within itself with my ex-fiance's mom.
Yeah. That whole part. Like I said, it could turn into a whole nother, but that's not what the movie was about. That's not what the movie
it wasn't. But I was like, when I look back on it now, I'm like,
yeah. Like I said, there's layers and entire look, you could write term papers off of this movie, off
You
of
could.
different relationships and aspects of this whole
But
thing.
But one thing I can appreciate John Singleton's gift in doing was that he didn't make it so complicated that you kind of got lost with a whole lot of plots that didn't have any type of they didn't tie together. And sometimes when you try to have so many different complicated things going on, you kind of feel like, well, I don't know which direction to go in with this movie because, I wanted to see this kind of conclude, but it didn't. I didn't get a resolution with that. And now we're over here looking at this. But he didn't do that. He gave you just the right balance when it came to each one of those. Yeah.
And sometimes it's as simple as that. He wrote life as it was in 2001. He wrote what was happening in that generation, and it was that simple. That's what was going on with those young folks at that time. And when you just talk about the family dynamic, just Jody, his mom, and even Melvin, what John Singleton wrote for what it took for Jody to begin to mature, letting his mom go. I won't even say her letting him go because she was ready. Mom was ready at that point.
Yeah. Mama got to have a life too. She told, you are not a child.
Right. She wasn't kicking him out. She wasn't kicking him out because she had that guilt about what happened with her first son. But she was like, all right, you need to make your way. And he wasn't trying to do it. And after he got hemmed up by Melvin that first time, and was like, yo, you're just gonna let him. He couldn't even say
you came from a real thug. You came from a dude that had one more strike left. What does that mean? What does that mean when you live in South Central and you have one more strike?
Okay.
Yeah,
all
he was
that.
that.
Sneeze for me, and you on your way back.
And a lot of us grew up with Melvins, and what I mean by that, those old school cats that took no mess, at all. And some of these little young antics that these young boys pull off, they have no patience for it because it's an honor among thieves type of hierarchy thing that they don't even play those types of games. So yeah, I don't know what made Jody ever feel that he could come for him, but and then to see how buff he was. I mean, I would have wait, what? I mean, I don't know what made him think he could come for him on any given Sunday. Choose a Sunday, not that Sunday, another Sunday. Why you ever thought you could come for this cat?
Because he was
just way too.
What he had? I know why. He had the perception that he was now the man of the house.
And see, that's another thing that we can get into when it comes to the dynamics of how Black women raise their sons.
Right.
And there's a whole mindset of calling your son a king when that's not even the role that he should play in your life. Your son should never be your king. When you think about the monarchy, it can eventually happen because, hey, but at the same token, you don't get those types of honors until you've earned them. And then you have to be reared to know how to handle them. And we give too many allowances for that. And he thought he could do that because his mom had never checked his behavior. That's why he's full grown in her house, not allowing her, kind of checking her on who she's dating. What, really? Now, granted, it kind of came out that she had made some poor dating decisions, previously. And I think it kind of had him on red alert because that's why the brother was put out the house, was behind another boyfriend who so happened to be abusive, because that came out as well. So it was a lot that was going on that kind of made its way through the storyline, but you know, it goes back to how Jody was raised.
But then,
and what
and then this is where, and you see it happen with Melvin, and this is why I asked before the show, and I don't recall asking it at the start of the show, how many baby boys were there in this movie, because it wasn't just Jody. We see this happen where, okay, he begins to evolve by the end of the movie and make some changes. Jody does. But how many baby boys were there in the movie? Okay, at the end,
every
Jody,
male,
huh? Just about
every male in there was a baby boy.
Okay, and even right, I'll even venture to say Melvin was still evolving.
Yeah,
because he moved in with Juanita. You know, and I'm going to say, going by today's standards, because 2001 and 2021, we think differently. But you know, that there once was, or still is,
that movie came out in 91, right? That movie came out 20 years. What? It came out in 2001. Oh wow,
2001. And so the thought is, okay, if that's going to be my woman, I'm going to make sure I put a roof over her head. So Melvin moved in. Jody moved in. I don't recall Jody necessarily saying, oh, I got a job, and moved in. Melvin at least had his own business.
Well, see, Jody never moved out. See, what it was that he always waffled. He never moved out. He always waffled between his mother's house and Yvette's house. That's the way I understood it. He was always there in his mom's house.
But remember,
and he just kind of waffled between. Yeah.
But by the end, his mom asked, well, where are you staying? And he said, don't worry, Mom, I got a place.
Yep, finally. But in the start of the movie, you know, he was in between being at home, being with Yvette, and then, you know, creeping with Peanut whenever, you know, she would give him some play. And then she finally got tired. Like, you know, hey, look, I don't have time for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Looking back on it now. Back then, we looked at it and was like, oh my gosh, it was a happy ending, nice little bow on everything. And looking at it now, it's like, okay, it had a decent ending. You know, there's potential for more growth. And I'm seeing fan posters floating around for Baby Boy 2, because of course, did it really end? Did he finish growing? People still have questions, you know. What happened to JoJo? Did JoJo follow in his father's footsteps? Did he do better? You know, people want more.
What happened to the new baby? Because, you know, at the very end, Yvette was pregnant.
Exactly.
They're playing cards and she was pregnant for another child.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see how it evolved.
The way that belly was moving, that was comical. The way that belly was moving was comical.
She was like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so on a scale of 5 being the best, how would you rate this movie?
I rate it 5. I really would rate it a 5. You know, and I guess I'm kind of biased because this is one of those movies that when it comes on, although I've seen it 1,000 times, I will literally watch from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And I think because I remember when it came out, I remember seeing it initially when it came out, and then just being able to kind of look back on what life was like then, because you can listen to the music, you can look at the cars, you can look at the fashion, and you can remember what your mindset was as, because in 20, oh gosh, I was what? Oh God. Ooh, yeah.
Go ahead, say it.
I was, no. I was still maturing. So I could see my own behavior, when it came to how Yvette was acting.
Right.
Thank God for salvation and maturity and a real job, because that would lean you all the way out. You get a real job where your criminal record matters. You're not gonna be showing off, you're not gonna be popping off for so much. You're like, oh, I don't think the school system frown upon that. I don't think that would look. And then there's a whole morality clause in our contract, so it's like you gotta think twice. But yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that she did, she popped off at the mouth, and then it was 2 instances. We kind of got to get into this a little bit just for a tag. The abuse of women came up a few times in the movie.
Right.
It came up a few times. It came up with the mom that she was in an abusive relationship, with the previous boyfriend that got Ryder put out, and subsequently him being put out is not what got him killed. I think that's the easy way for Jody to kind of wrap that up in his mind. It's his behavior. Because he could have gotten, just like him, you were at home and you were about to get killed. So it's your behavior, who you're involved with, which puts you in those type of precarious situations. Because people get put out all the time and don't die in the streets. That's real talk. So they talked about that. They remember her girlfriend. Remember her girlfriend that she was on the phone with?
Sitting there with
she was being abused by and was still giving him that. I'm gonna leave it there, clean way. But yeah, and she was still involved with him. And then of course you had Rodney. He was on the verge of sexually assaulting her. And then you had Jody, who did put his hands on her.
Right.
So yeah, I think I covered all those behaviors. The only one that seemed to not put his hands on a woman was Melvin. And that wasn't, now he did hush her. Now that was, let me tell you something. When he went like this, when she was talking, I was like, wow, my granddaddy used to do that. When my grandma was really at her height and she was getting it in and yammering, when Neil would go like this, it was like, it shut it down. So I'm watching like, oh my God, is someone else in the world that has that kind of power? Yeah. When he did that, she got real quiet. He had to put his hands. That's saying you ever should put your hands on a woman. But when you think about it, it's just like everybody else seemed to be their go-to.
Yeah.
He was just like, and she got quiet, and he finished what he had to say. And then even, I don't know, Jody's friends seemed like he could be on the cusp of, we never saw him abusive, but he seemed like he kind of skirted that line of, he was disrespectful.
He seemed a little unstable, just on the edge.
Yeah. He was disrespectful, but he would bring it back. It doesn't mean, it doesn't make the disrespect okay. But it's like, Melvin was the only guy in the movie that was not straight up disrespectful. He was the only one.
Right.
That when I think from start to finish, he wasn't disrespectful. But what does that say? What does that say when you have a movie where all the men exhibited some level of disrespect towards the women in their life? What does that say?
And here's why I rated a 5. Because I always go for, all right, how was this story put together? I'm all about the story. I rated a 5 because he wrote the reality. He wrote the reality. This is what life was like. And I'm sure if you walk into any home in any area, you can find something like this going on. This is somebody's reality somewhere. There's somebody who will watch this movie. And just like you said, my grandfather used to do that. Somebody can go, I remember my dad used to do that. Oh my goodness, this is how my aunt and uncle used to act. Somebody can find a behavior in that movie that's familiar. That was their day to day. There's a little JoJo who can remember my mommy and daddy used to fight like that.
Oh, I remember when my mom brought another man to the house. How about that? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Right.
You
I remember
know,
how
I'm
that
used
made
to
me
have my
feel when my mom started dating after my daddy got put out, after my daddy got locked up or whatever. You know, it's somebody's reality. And so
it is.
it's like it makes sense. And again, in 2001, when we were getting hit with all of this stuff, it wasn't that long after. Gosh, when did Rodney King happen? That was what, 90?
Mm-hmm.
Around 90, 91. So it
Around 90.
wasn't that far after when we were dealing with all of that stuff, and we were constantly hearing about stuff coming out of LA and whatnot. And this kind of said, all right, this is what type of stuff is going on. This is what daily life is. Let me explain to you what our reality is here in LA. And so it was like,
it kind of sprinkled in a little of the gang culture too. Just a little bit, because you could tell that Jody's friend was gang affiliated. There's no doubt about that. You know, Snoop was.
Right.
Jody was not, which, to know people that live out in LA, the fact that he was able to make it and not be affiliated is kind of interesting to me in itself. And I say, everybody, don't get me wrong, people in LA, don't get me, you know, I'm not trying to get it twisted. Everybody in LA, every male is not a part of a gang, but it just, I'm looking at how he was encircled with it. His best friend is gang affiliated. Yeah, a part of, I mean, his best right-hand man is. Then the guy that Yvette gets with is, and we know Melvin was, or you know, he's an OG, because he kind of put out there. He told you which set he was from, what street he was from. He told you. So here it is, he's in the middle of, and then he the weakest link when it comes to maturity and behavior. It's like, you know, what does that say? You know, you the baby, you just a shelter. You have no idea how the world really works, you know. And then when Melvin's trying to school him on it about bread and butter, man, let me tell you something. He should teach an economics class, because he really broke down what makes the world go round between him and his best friend.
Yeah.
In order to, and here it is, these people haven't seen a lick of school, haven't read the first book probably in reference to it. But I think Melvin may have been more well read, because I feel like he was a reader. It was just the way he kind of talked about it, because I think it was more than just observed. I think he read up on it. But needless to say, they had the idea of what it was going to take to make it. So I want to see a Baby Boy too, because I want to see how he evolved, because I believe that if he continued on the same path that he was on, that, you know, evolution for him and his family was inevitable, you know. So yeah.
And you know, do I need to add the classic scenes? Because, you know, in Black movies, there's typically a scene that everybody, you know, has their giggles about. And Melvin and Juanita enjoying themselves, to put it delicately, it is the it is the scene that everybody talks about in this film. Because to say that Melvin was shall we say creative, is that a good word?
It is a good word. It is a very good word. And I can see why Juanita like went to bat for him. It's just like it's like, as a woman, she could never get Jody to explain the why, because he would have to be a woman to appreciate everything that Melvin brought to the table. Everything.
A lot to the table.
He brought a lot to the table.
Quite a bit.
You know, he was a hard worker. He had his own business. I never saw in a movie where he asked her for anything. That he did reside with her, but I want to say Melvin had his own place because I remember him mentioning that he had a place over somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Like in the very beginning, because he said, "Wait." So Melvin had his own. It's just because he was with her. He was for the sake of for the sake of the movie. The flow of the movie couldn't happen without him being in that house and causing a problem for Jody because it's like yeah. So I never got the impression that he needed her as a place to stay, as a shelter for him, because he had his own. It's just I'm with my woman in her place. Because this is where she is. This is her habitat. Like people like to say her, we call it environment, but the streets call it habitat.
You had to protect the castle.
Right, because she had exactly. She had her garden. Don't take her out her comfort. I'll come to you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with that.
And can we appreciate just for a moment the way he served breakfast?
He knew how to scramble.
Oh my good gracious. He did. I was like, I wonder those are brown or white eggs. I wonder what type of seasoning he put in those eggs. Just wonder. I wonder what it had with those eggs.
All I know is the eggs were scrambled. In every sense of the word.
And he was magnanimous enough to ask him, did he want some breakfast? He asked Jody, hey, you want some breakfast? Gotta appreciate his manners and the fact that, hey, little bro, I'm trying to look out for you. That's one thing I can say, outside of everything about Melvin, because you had woo, everything about him is the fact that I appreciate the fact that he tried to bond with Jody from the beginning.
Right.
He really did. He didn't come in, I didn't grow up like this in the respect of a man coming in my house and dating my mom and then taking over and then making me feel like I'm a stranger in my own home. However, I do have friends and unfortunately relatives that did grow up like that. Yeah. And they had a series of people that came in that made them feel like they're strangers in their own home and they didn't belong and that type of thing. I was blessed not to have that. But because I saw it happen to so many people that I grew up with or related to, the fact that he came in trying, and he never stopped trying. He never stopped trying to connect with Jody. He never did. Now, there are some points where, after he beat him that one time, he took it to him because, you have to, because when you you step as a grown man, you get grown man reaction. And that's exactly what he got. He signed up for that. He took a class in that. He was like, let me pay my tuition for this grown man class I'm about to get from Melvin. And he paid and he got his certificate. So, so anyway, even after that, Melvin still came through and was mentoring and was caring and trying to bond with him. And at the very end, that's when Jody got it. It's like he finally understood, this man is not against me. He's for me. My mom is happy. She's in a good place. He's not all these other guys she's dealt with. She finally picked. Oh, and that's another thing. Can we touch on this for a second?
Yeah.
When you finally pick a winner after 10,000 losers, that's like when you finally pick. It's like it shocks everybody because everybody is all on the fence. Like, okay, we just waiting for him to punch her out. We just waiting for him to steal from her. We just waiting for him to take advantage because that's all she's dealt with. But she finally got a winner. And I think that once Jody realized that and he saw the maturity in his own self, that he was trying to become a better man for himself, for Yvette, and for his mama. Because he started peeling off money to his mama. When he started involved, he realized this dude is not a bad dude. He really isn't. He's made mistakes, but he's not bringing these mistakes to my mama. And then I can peel off and not feel like I got to protect her. Because she's in a good space with him. Right. I don't have to do that. I can go over here and be with Yvette and protect her and my children. At a time when he just had JoJo.
Yeah.
I can let that go.
Yeah. And I think at that moment he realized, Melvin really has seen what I've seen. You know, he can relate to this. Oh, you mean what I'm feeling right now? He actually understands. He sees me.
Yeah.
You know, and so at that moment, that's when the light bulb went off for Jody. And he was like,
Yeah. And
that was when he was like, okay, I can let this go. He's got me and my mom. I think that's
exactly because unfortunately, as you and I both know, Nikkei, we've known situations where the guy or the woman coming into the household only has a person that they're dating or sleeping with.
Right.
You know, right. You know, blank the kids. You know, you understand this out right there. You know, and they could care less. Right. It's like my focus is to take care of this person, or the focus on that person, and however these other people get it is however they get it. That's not my concern. Right. You know, and the other thing I can say is that the way that he bonded with him over that situation, because there is a beauty when men can trust one another and be vulnerable.
Exactly.
You know, that boy cried. You know, he was scared, and Melvin covered him. His mama never found out. He never ran him down the street like, you know, this little homie, you know, he couldn't take none of that. It's like, it happened. I'm covering you. I will make sure you are.
Yep. And not 2 words passed between them, but it was a whole conversation.
It was a whole conversation. It was a whole conversation. And, you know, there was another movie that kind of had a moment like that too. This Christmas had a moment like that. It wasn't to that heightened that, like Baybor was, but, you know, the older gentleman that was dating a mom in the house, when it came to the older son that wasn't getting, that didn't never seem to like him, when he helped him out of his jam, and he came back to dinner, he gave that man his proper respect. I don't know if you remember this Christmas. Yeah, go back and watch, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It lets you know that there's a point when you want to mature and recognize what people have done for you, that you have to give folks their proper respect. You got to, because they've earned it. They showed you what they're made out of. They showed you that they're real and that they got your back and they're gonna look out. So I'm not gonna keep having this battle with you when you've already proven to me on a high level that you're about what you say you're about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the very end of this Christmas, you'll pick up on it. But it was excellent. You know, we lost a tremendous talent when Singleton passed. But you know, one thing about the movies is that people live forever. Their work goes on. And now that we're in the digital age, unlike the film age, you know, because the film, we've lost a lot of films that we'll never get back, you know, because, you know, things disintegrated, you know, they didn't have the quality in order to kind of preserve them. So we've lost a lot of great work. But because of the digital age, you know, his work, you know, is prolific. It'll just continue to go on and on. And people in film schools right now are studying how he wrote, how he directed, how he produced this whole film. And they're looking at how to probably take it to another level when it comes to coming of age, and what Baby Boy would look like. Because I mean, I can't imagine what it would look like mirroring what the Gen Zers how they're living. Could you imagine what that would be like to do this movie based off of their perspective? So I would love to see what, you know, not recreate what John has done in the age of our generation. I would like to see what the Gen Zers do with it. So I could see, you know, how you all were living. You know, how would you all handle these challenges?
Yeah, it'll be interesting like 10 years from now to see what like the 5-year-olds right now think of this movie 10 years down the line. If they think, oh yeah, this is still relevant, or nah, things have changed tremendously. Skip the technology and all of that. Are we still like this? Does it make sense? That'll be interesting.
That'll be interesting. I would love to just to know their take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Black
Well,
cinema has another win.
yes, it does. So, people, that is all we have for you today. I'm going to ask you to follow your moderators. Don could not be here with us today, but make sure you follow our platforms. Don Miskel, that's MISKEL.com. Nicole co-hosted with me today. NicoleDeCandice.com is her website. Where else can you be found?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. With the same, I kept it simple. It's just my name, Nicole DeCandice. Now, the DeCandice would clip you up a little bit, but but once you get it right for one platform, you can replicate that for all the others. So definitely look for me there.
Okay. And you can find me at nikewrites.wordpress.com. And it's Nike. I know it looks like the shoe, but I promise you it's pronounced Nikkei. I'm saying it right. nikewrites.wordpress.com. And again, I kept it consistent. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all Nikkei Writes. Okay. And at the opening, you heard music by Robert Rice Jr. Follow him on smoothology.net. And make sure you follow us at Movies That Move We on YouTube. Like and subscribe, tell a friend. Follow us on Facebook also. Again, we keep it simple. Movies That Move We.
Yes.
So follow us
and
in all.
Can I get some directions when it comes to Facebook? You would not be accepted unless you answer all the questions. We really guard all of them. And it doesn't have to be a long dissertation. Just kind of respond to them in an appropriate manner, and you will be invited in. We try to keep a real close hold on who participates, because we don't want any trolls, we don't want any negativity, we don't want any craziness. So definitely answer the questions. You'll be invited in with open arms, and if you don't, so sorry.
Yeah. It's always a cool vibe in the group. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
And until next time, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.